people to understand that there actually is an issue out there.
So
It's kind
so
of
the
nice.
movies
It's reached
don't hurt.
popular consciousness. Yeah.
But then the idea that you can get Bruce Willis to fly to the asteroid and blow it up from on the asteroid in one big yippee-ki-yay moment, that's not practical.
Well, I hope people realize that movies are, well, they're movies, right? So the amazing thing is that we're actually talking about doing this for real. No, not with Bruce Willis, but actually protecting the Earth from asteroid impacts. And it's something that we know you have to do someday because your luck eventually runs out.
And the luck being that, this is a planet in space and things are floating around there. And if you just look at the moon, you can see that it's been hit by many things. There's craters everywhere. And we have a couple craters. What's the biggest crater on Earth that was made by an asteroid?
Okay, the largest crater that we know of is over 100 miles across. And to give you an idea, when something that size hits, it heats the atmosphere of the Earth to a few hundred degrees and basically around the Earth, basically kills off most things on Earth.
The whole planet.
Yeah, those are very, very large ones and very, very rare.
I'm going to scratch my second question. Where's the best place to hide? There's no point of asking that.
There is no place to hide from something like that. But
how big would an asteroid that made that 100-mile crater? How big's the actual rock? Small, right? Compared,
about 10 miles across.
10 miles makes 100.
Think Mount Everest. Okay, flying Mount Everest, moving at Mach 50. Okay,
jeez.
That's basically what happens. But
when did that happen?
Oh, the last one that's happened at least 100 times during the history of the Earth. So,
oh wow!
The last one of those wiped out the dinosaurs. But the amazing thing is
that's millions of years ago, right?
Yeah, but the amazing thing is that large asteroid impacts actually happen all the time. You don't have to wipe out everything on Earth for it to be a bad day here.
Okay.
For instance, if you only have a nuclear weapon size explosion that destroys a city, that's still a bad day. And those happen all the time. And what we're going to talk about today, what we're going to show at the Museum of Flight today, is a video of data taken from what's called the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Monitoring Network. And it is a network of sensors used to monitor to see if other countries are exploding nuclear weapons in the atmosphere. It looks for nuclear weapons tests. And in the last 10 years, it's never actually seen a nuclear weapon explode in the atmosphere because there have been none. But it's seen 26 large impacts.
And so this thing turns out to be interesting just to monitor impacts on Earth.
It turns out to be an asteroid detector instead.
And you didn't make it as an asteroid detector, but that's what it's good for.
And what we're going to show people is that asteroid impacts happen all the time. They're
No
not
kidding.
rare.
So
They're
wait a minute.
absolutely
How
not
often?
rare.
Remember we saw that one over Russia last year? People got it on their cell phones.
Exactly.
Actually, they got it because they have cameras on their car in case they get into an accident.
Right.
Russian people are smarter than us in that way.
Thank you for
Well,
insurance fraud in Russia.
Russian people like to jump in front of moving cars and sue.
Oh,
so
is it because
that's
of
what the
insurance
cameras
fraud
are
that
for.
we saw
Yeah.
that
That's
asteroid?
exactly it, yes.
Otherwise, we would have never seen it. How many asteroids hit the Earth a year?
What we're going to show is that in the last 12 years, we've had 26 impacts that are nuclear weapon sized.
Okay, more than 2 a year.
Or so, yeah.
On average.
Now, there are varying sizes. The largest of the ones in the last decade was the one you talked about, which happened on February 15th of last year. And that was about 30 times the size of the bomb dropped over Hiroshima. It was a big explosion.
So where did it hit?
That hit about 40 miles outside of the city of Chelyabinsk, Russia. And
Did it hurt people?
yeah, it sent a few thousand people to the hospital. It broke about 100,000 windows. Basically, every window in that city was broken. Now, they got very, very
Boy,
lucky.
I hope you had a small deductible on your windows. I probably put the insurance fraud, speaking of which, probably put the insurance companies out of business.
Well, I don't know how much a window costs in Russia, but in any case, in the middle of winter in Russia, you do want to change your windows quickly because it's cold.
Yeah.
But we got very, very lucky that day. The people of that city got very, very lucky because that asteroid was coming in a very shallow angle.
Yeah.
And it exploded about 40 miles from the city, which is a long distance. And the shockwave basically went over the top of the city. Had it actually come in, typically things come more downwards, not sort of grazing along. It was running parallel to the ground. And that could have killed 1 million people easily.
yeah.
If that thing would have hit straight directly into the Earth on a sharp angle, it would have killed 1 million people.
Yeah.
If it hit a populated area.
Well, it
wow.
was 30 times the size of the Hiroshima bomb, so put it that way.
Could
How
have
many-
killed more. Depends on where it hits.
Exactly. It just depends on her.
Okay. All right. So we've established, first off, you're a serious astronaut. This is actually a real thing worth studying.
And we're going to show the data from this.
And you're
you
gonna show
cannot
it
argue with
today.
the fact that it happens.
Got it.
And the amazing thing, really, so what we want people to realize is that our current worldwide strategy for dealing with this issue is we're relying on blind luck. we're hoping that the next one doesn't hit a city. That's basically it.
Simple as that.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the birth control method my wife and I use. So,
And
Say hello to Darby.
yeah.
and it's not exactly. We think we can do better. We know that we can do better as a species, right? And the amazing thing is that you can actually change it. You know, what
Yeah.
we talked about. Besides doing it via Bruce Willis in the movies, you can do it for real.
All right. Well, let me ask about that because there's a part of me that thinks how they're so unpredictable and so who knows what size, and maybe there'd be one too big for whatever you make that it makes it seem almost futile. Yet you believe you can stop an
Oh,
asteroid.
we know we can.
How?
The amazing part, if you can spot an asteroid millions and millions of miles before it hits the Earth, decades before it hits the
You
Earth,
can spot it decades before.
that's the key. We can do that. And,
So
and
is
we're
this
building
like
a
that?
telescope
Is-
to actually do that. It's
Is this
launching
like
in
that movie
2018.
in that the farther away you find it, the less you have to deflect it to get it to miss?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Now, your organization that you founded, Ed, is called the B612 Foundation. I'm assuming that's the name of some giant asteroid out there that's looming?
B612 actually is the name of the home of the asteroid that the Little Prince lived on. If you ever read that when you
I
were
used to
in-
love that book.
It was a great book, and we like the allegory of the story, which is that this little boy understands what's really important, but none of the adults around him do. And if you look around here, you ask any politician or what's the most important thing, and they'll tell you some scandal going on in Washington, or some actress in Hollywood, what she's done
Scarlett
lately.
Johansson's going to get naked.
Right,
And-
right.
It's a pretty big
And
deal.
sometimes the most important thing is really just looking up.
Wow.
And kids get that right away. So we picked the name of this because it's some you tell it when I go around and I tell kids what we're doing. They go, of course we should protect the Earth from being hit.
They've
by
got a
asteroids."
vested interest. They're going to be here a long
Yep.
time.
But your typical politician has a 2-year horizon. And so the government the
until he
government is
starts
not
running
doing
for
it.
re-election, right?
Yeah. So given that we knew we could do it, I realized, and my colleagues realized, we could put together the world's greatest team of rocket scientists to do something about this. Folks, we picked the top people out of NASA.
And by the way, even you were initially skeptical that it cost too much money. You actually said that at a tech talk that you gave, and now you're raising the money. Do you have Indiegogo, Kickstarter? How
Well,
you do?
we just we have an online site. It's b612foundation.org.
Okay.
And we also talk to individual donors just the way, say, an art museum would raise money.
Mm-hmm.
Because it turns out that saving the Earth, get this, is about the cost of building the wing of an art museum. In fact, there's a local art museum in San Francisco that's building a new wing that costs more than saving the Earth.
Wow.
That's the beauty of it.
And today is Earth Day. You knew that, right?
Exactly.
Is that why you're here today?
It in fact is.
That's why you're at
the Museum of Flight.
Save the
Museum
Earth
of Flight today. Let's see what's the time. 11:30 a.m. this morning.
Mhm. And then tonight there's a public lecture.
At 6 o'clock, the public can come down and hear you, and we have a lot of aviators who will be there, I'm sure. So, what can I do
What we
aside
want-
from writing a
yeah.
check?
What we want people to do is go to the website b612foundation.org, learn a little bit about this, and tell people. I think this is an empowering message that we can actually protect our own planet. That it's within our capability. You don't have to wait around for somebody else to come around and save us. We can do it ourselves. And again, nobody bats an eye when they say, "Oh, we're raising money to build a performing arts center or a new chemistry building at my old university or a
Presidential library.
something
They
like
build
that."
them every 4 years.
Exactly. Nobody bats an eye with this. So if they can do that, then shouldn't we be able to save the Earth?
It's funny, people in the world, of course, like when you raise money to help someone far away, they go, "Hey, why don't you take care of people closer to home?"
Well,
it's
you
hard.
can't,
It's
you
hard
can't
to
get any
yeah,
closer to home
than
this.
the actual
Earth.
planet. It's hard to get people to think of the planet as one place, isn't it?
Well, that's the amazing thing when you see the Earth from that vantage point. When you see that it really is a giant spaceship flying through space, you come to the realization that my colleague says is that we're not passengers on Spaceship Earth. We're the crew.
We're the crew.
We're the responsible.
That's
for
an
it.
amazing. All right, so now let's talk about your space missions. You being an astronaut, 3 missions. You were also on. You lived aboard the space station for how long?
For 6 months in 2003.
What's that like?
It was a wonderful experience. It is a view that can't be beat out your office window.
Of course, yeah, the best view,
And
a gazillion trillion dollar view, they would call it.
yeah, it gives you a lot of time to think about what's important. That vantage point makes you think.
It makes you think that I'm on that little planet, and look at it. It looks tiny outside my window. Now, when you're looking at the Earth from that distance in space, how many miles up are you?
We were only about 250 miles.
Only
above the
250
surface.
miles up. But still, how big does the planet look?
Well, it
Does
fills
it look
your
like it
window.
looks on my iPhone?
I don't know what your phone looks like, but,
Well, but you know, you have
yeah.
you've seen the phone that just Steve Jobs photo. The Earth just fills in the screen.
Yeah, no, it doesn't quite look like that. But I mean, I could see the whole United States at one time. for
Okay,
instance.
and so you're looking down. How much evidence of human beings do you see at 250 miles?
You see a lot.
You do.
It turns out that, especially at night, you can see all the city lights. You can see, looks like you can see the major cities. You can see the roads between them because they're all lit up. You know, human beings can.
We create a lot of light on this planet.
We sure do. We have changed this planet.
Can you see the light maybe from the moon? Have you asked one of those guys?
I have not, but today we will have Bill Anders with us this morning, who
yeah.
has taken perhaps the most famous photo ever taken, and one of the most important photos because it really started the environmental movement.
Is that the one of Marilyn Monroe's dress is blowing up?
Exactly. Yes.
That's not that photo.
That's about
An
wind,
incredibly
right? Yeah.
important photo.
But that was important environmental news
Sure,
too.
yes.
Study of wind. No, this was a photo from the moon of the Earth, right?
It's called Earthrise.
Wow. And Bill is a local guy.
Yes. He lives
Very
in the
famous
area.
astronaut. Was it Apollo?
Apollo
11?
8.
8.
Yeah,
Okay.
Christmas Day, 1968.
Wow.
And
How come we don't go to the moon that much anymore? Is it expensive?
lots of reasons: lack of direction to NASA from the federal government and from Congress, and it's a whole lot of
And
reasons.
too much like technology that's amazing right in our fingertips. It would seem when you look at how they did that with slide rules and primitive equipment, you would think we could build some really amazing moon units these days. We could
Well,
actually colonize.
That's our message to kids: is that we can do really amazing things. And I cannot think of anything more amazing than actually doing Armageddon for real.
Right.
Protecting the planet from being, changing the course of the entire solar system.
And so
if you want to do something big, that's it.
And so you've started now. You actually accidentally they built an asteroid detector that helps you get the message out.
Exactly.
When you were in space, were there any asteroids? Like, do you have an asteroid forecast? Do you have one of them 8-day planners for?
No, but
Annihilation's always
Because
in view.
in space movies like Gravity, there's always an asteroid field.
Yeah.
Did you see Gravity?
I did, in fact.
Did you, like me, mostly see it for Sandra Bullock and not so much for the science?
Well, everybody had been asking me if I had seen it, and I hadn't for a long time, and
So you
we
had to
just
go.
rented it at home and watched it with the family.
What'd you think?
Yeah, it was a fun movie.
All right, yeah. Like a guy like you had to look at it and see that it was like it was fun to watch and it was brilliantly
Right,
shot.
but him watching Gravity is like us watching Frasier.
Right, that's not how radio
Not
really
how
works.
it works.
All right,
It isn't?
No.
tell me what's different from Gravity when you were in space.
Everything.
Everything. Okay, I was totally.
But
There
it's a
you
great
go.
movie.
It's a great movie anyway. Yeah.
But, you are constantly reminded about asteroid impacts when you're looking at the Earth because, number one, you can look down and see shooting stars below you. You
Wow.
see them all the time. You can see craters on the Earth. There are large craters, like I mentioned. And you can look the other way and see the moon, and you go, well, what's the difference between this
Right.
planetary body and this one? Well, in one case, we have weather that wipes out the craters. In one case, we don't.
Ed Lou, astronaut. Ed, do you believe in aliens? Do you think there are other species out there that are intelligent and sentient?
Maybe. I wish I knew the answer.
Your mind's open, but you're not saying yes or no.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Spike, go ahead.
How much do you want to save the planet? I mean, how much do you want to do it? You said you could save for the cost of a museum wing. What's a bill for saving the planet? How much money are you talking about?
$250 million to build
A quarter,
spacecraft.
just a $250 million.
Well,
half a stadium.
it's to build the thing that spots it far enough away.
Yes.
Well,
but
that's
that's the
Then
hard
when you
part.
have 10 years and you know the asteroid's coming, then you hold another fundraiser, right?
Yeah, but then that's a pretty easy fundraiser.
That's an easy one.
And
yeah.
that's actually something that politicians are pretty good at. They'll solve a problem like that.
When there's a disaster imminent, they can do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is your foundation a 501c3? Is it tax deductible? I would think the IRS would have a real vested interest in, no asteroids because they're not collecting from anybody if that happens.
Death and taxes, baby.
The B612 Foundation is a 501c3. We are a nonprofit. It is
Okay.
tax deductible.
Is it so little amount of money that people don't take you seriously?
No, they do take us seriously, but we just started this project 2 years ago. We started from a standing start.
Okay.
Built the team, and we've come a long ways in 2 years. We've built hardware. We literally have the leaders of most of the successful interplanetary missions ever flown from planet Earth work for us now.
I want to ask you too, Ed, real quick before you go. As a man who has strapped himself to a rocket and been thrust into space, and you've done it 3 times.
Oh, I thought you were asking that as a man who had strapped himself to a rocket.
I have not.
But I play one on the radio.
But I've got to know, especially on the first flight, What is going through your mind when we watch the countdown on TV? You hear the 10, 9, 8, and you are on top of that thing, and you're getting ready to go. I mean, go like no man has
first
done
time.
before.
What's it
How
like?
does
The
that
very
feel?
first time, what's going through your mind is don't screw this up.
You worried about your efforts? You worried about you doing something wrong?
Yeah, but if you screw it up, you could kill you and everybody else on board, right? So
Your mission. It's a mission.
the
That's why they
idea
call it
is
that.
to do your job correctly.
I think the best quote I ever saw was, I hate to keep bringing up that movie Armageddon, Steve Buscemi quoted as they were about to launch. He said, look, I'm sitting on top of 10 billion gallons of fuel
Right.
on a machine with 500,000 moving parts built by the low bidder. What could go wrong?
Right. Now, by the third time, are you like upset that you have to put down your iPad and stop playing Angry Birds?
No, my third flight was actually on a Russian rocket, so very different than the
Really?
space shuttle. Yeah.
Yeah, do they ride clunkier? What is the deal? with the
Oh, it's a
Russian-
lot smaller, and it was immediately after the loss of the space shuttle Columbia, and we flew an emergency flight up to the space station with very short training, myself and one Russian. Very different situation.
How many kids want to become astronauts today?
I think a lot do. My kids do, which
I
is great.
wanted to be one. I thought about it.
I
a
want
lot.
them to think big things. I want them to realize that when you talked about, can you see evidence of people changing things on the earth? The answer is yes, because human beings have strived to move forward. We've done big things, and I hope we don't lose that. And that's why we're doing what we're doing.
You mentioned flying on a Russian rocket. I just want to ask quickly, it is an international effort to explore space. The Chinese lately have been doing more of it than anybody from what I report. You are a Chinese American by heritage. Do you have any communication with their space program or know what they're doing right now?
Well, as a representative of NASA several years ago, I did go over there to go meet with their astronauts, and it was part of my job.
They want to go to the moon, it sounds like.
They do it. I think that's great.
Yes, Eric has a quick question.
I do. Quick question from a listener. The listener wanted to know if a 10-mile wide astronaut hits the Earth.
Astronaut?
Asteroid.
hits the Earth, but lands in the ocean. What sort of impact would that have? Because if it hit land, obviously that would be bad.
10 miles. Big.
Everybody's dead. Doesn't matter where it hits, anywhere on Earth. Something that size.
And if you
good.
see it 10 years out, you could stop it from hitting Earth.
Absolutely.
What an amazing story. Ed Lieu. See him today, Museum of Flight, 11:30 this morning, and then a public program at 6 that details the project with earth-shattering news, literally, about asteroid strikes. Nice to meet you, sir.
Thank you very much
Thanks
for your
for coming.
time.